Ignition. Autopilot activated. 100 miles per hour. Why don't you come on? I can take you for a ride. Why don't you come on? We can drive away tonight. Why don't you come on? I can take you for a ride. Why don't you come on? Tonight's the night.
Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the virtual Pocono Raceway for the home stretch of what's been an exciting season so far of FTF SNSL presented by STN Action. Tonight, we're racing the Riley Daytona prototypes for the Pocono 200K presented by Splash & Go Graphics. I'm Justin Prince. We'll be joined by Blake McCandless in just a few moments with Zach Johnson in the director's seat for tonight's action. It's expected to be an intense race today, with drivers carrying speeds of more than 160 plus miles an hour around the racetrack and drivers going up to 3 and wide around this facility. First things first, let's talk about your point standings where championship implications are starting to come into play. Keep in mind that drivers will have a drop calculated after this week, and the drivers inside the top 5 in the point standings after race number 7 will race it out for a 1 round playoff to determine this season's champion. Tristan Hagenstein enters tonight as the points leader over Sean Butler and Adam Martin, with Mike McConville and Michael Frisch inside your 5 positions at the moment. That's a decent buffer to Brendan Merdzda, followed by Justin Malone, Clint Roberts, Jake Poulin, and Jack Painter, your top 10. The separation amongst your top 10 is 206 points. The top 24 separate by 471 points. Now, today will feature at least one qualifying race to determine your starting positions outside of your front row. That will be 10 laps for today, as well as 50 laps for today's main race. Keep in mind that drivers will have to pit for fuel at least once. Overall in the race, estimated fuel runs to be 26 to 28 laps for today with this 75% fuel capacity. In other words, when it comes to today's action, it's expected to be one where intrigue and strategy is part of the names of the game to see who can come out on top. Looking as qualifying is underway, as the driver at the top of the board is the man you're following along with. That's Justin Malone, who is currently having some adventurous moments here, and drivers were advised they were not allowed to use the access roads in turns 2 and turn 3, as that is counting as cutting the race course for the race itself today. He's got a 58.202 though from his first qualifying lap out of 2 available for drivers today. That's 5/1000ths of a second quicker than Mike McConville. Andrew Hardcastle, Dylan Connolly, and Jack Painter round out your top 5. All those drivers in the 58.2s at the moment. In fact, just about everyone inside the top 10 is inside that range so far. And what has been an entertaining qualifying session. Everyone has set qualifying times, as it's time to get ready to go qualifying racing. The drivers who will start on the front row as a result of qualifying for the main event will be Justin Malone and Mike McConville. One qualifying race will take part for 10 laps for our competitors tonight. Let's take a look as these drivers now make their way to the starting grid and how they will play out. 15 cars will take to the grid for the qualifying race to determine your starting positions for the Pocono 200K presented by Splash & Go Graphics. Andrew Hardcastle starts on the pole alongside Dylan Connolly, with Jack Painter and Dylan Nowotny rounding out your top 4. Clint Roberts, Brendan Merdzda will start in 5th and 6th, with Brightshaw in 7th position. Ryan Kita will start in 8th position, with Tristan Hagenstein in 9th. Adam Martin rounds out your top 10. Following behind that is Jeremy Clapper with Cosmin Ionescu starting in 12th position. Ryan Araki, Michael Frisch, Jake Poulin, your 15 drivers who will take part in the qualifying event. As drivers now get all set to go for today's action, it's expected to be a fun one, but it's also expected to be one where drivers will be utilizing the bump draft. It was seen in practice, drivers having up to 5 cars deep bumping into some of the corners. We'll have to see how things play out in this one. iRacing pace car now getting ready to roll here at Pocono, as let's take this opportunity to talk about Pocono Raceway, which is a facility with a lot of history both in open wheel and stock car racing. This facility opened in 1971, originally as a short track, eventually becoming what is now the massive 2.5-mile Tricky Triangle, as it is known as today. 14 degrees in turn 1, 8 degrees in turn 2 for banking, 6 degrees in turn 3 around this racetrack, all named after the prestigious racetracks in open wheel racing. Trenton in turn 1, the tunnel turn modeled after Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the Milwaukee Mile for turn 3. Now, as these drivers get ready to go for what's expected to be some cool weather conditions in the early morning. After all, it's just 7 a.m. in sim time on April the 9th, 2021, with 65 degrees your air and track temp. It's time to bring in my co-announcer today, and your main announcer, in fact, as well. It's Blake McCandless, who has just come out of his DeLorean after what was some thrilling Throwback Cup action.
Yeah, it was. I'm still trying to kind of decompress after a long race, 400 laps, 1987 cars in North Wilkesboro. Didn't quite have the luck that we wanted. We ran well, started on the pole, and it was just a lot of fun. So glad we were able to do that, and glad to hop right on over and see another entirely different style of racing here at FTF with the Saturday Night Super Speedway League, and ready and set to go here for what should be a pretty exciting night. Looks like 10 laps for this heat, and we'll set the grid and get them rolling.
It's expected to be a fun one to see how things play out. Drivers were able to go up to 3 wide down the front straightaway, Blake, for this action. But I believe the pace car is off. Green flag is out. We're underway from Pocono. And already the bump draft, as talked about, Blake, coming into play. These drivers were trying to practice that all throughout the practice sessions and practice races throughout the week. 3 wide with door-to-door contact already, in fact.
Yeah, it was one car up the racetrack. Tristan Hagenstein and Dylan Connolly making contact there, and it looks like Hagenstein just able to get clear of the man that they call Decon there in the 95, the Rowdy Energy Machine. But you see the huge runs, how everybody stalls out. Hagenstein, another big run into turn 2, and you know, the one thing I'm really interested to see here, I don't know if it would be out of bounds, and I haven't watched any practice. I'd want to see if anybody would take the access road here in turn 3. These cars could probably take it if you really wanted to, but at least for now, they bypass it.
They are warned, though, Blake. That is a black flag if they take it. Big incident, though, is just about the entire field crashes.
And again, no cautions here in this heat, but that is Brennan Mertz, a really hard hit for him. Andrew Hardcastle, Dylan Nadwadney, he's in it. Cosmin Ionescu, several drivers already, and that has kind of separated this pack. You see 3 up here at the front, another couple just kind of trickling along there, but already we've cut the lead pack down to 9 as we're making things around for lap 2.
There is a fast repair available for these drivers, keep in mind, Blake, so that's something that's available for these competitors if they get into trouble, but not necessarily what you want to see when it comes to wanting track position. The driver that's leading the group is Luke Breitschoff, though, up at the front of the field, and he's doing a decent job here with the clean car. There are some damaged machines that are surprisingly doing well, better than they did at Texas, Blake.
That's exactly right, but I think here you don't. Texas, you have the banking, you have the high banking. Although Bradshaw going to be taken, as they're now 4 wide up here for the race lead. You just see that top 3, how you have 3 cars all nose to tail pushing each other. Michael Frisch able to go to the lead, but I think more at this track, this is a lot of what we're going to see. Guys getting huge runs. It's a little bit easier to kind of build up those runs because of how long these straightaways are here at Pocono. Each one so dynamic that, you know, Breitschoff can be in the lead exiting turn 3, and then he's about 8th by the time they get to turn 1. Especially on the front straightaway, you can fit probably 8 wide in these cars if you really wanted to. So the runs are just going to keep coming, and they're going to come often.
Perfect example of that is the big run from the 56 to the inside to take it 3 wide for that race lead. And it's expected to go back and forth. They were going back and forth throughout practice just prior to qualifying as well. Some drivers trying to utilize that top line and for the bump draft line, as I like to call it. Others trying to see what lines could work for various runs. And for the most part, it was either the very bottom drivers preferred or all the way at the very top line, especially in the tunnel turn here.
Well, it looks like the high side's almost solid just because everybody, you know, just kind of naturally likes to run up there on the straightaways here at Pocono. You think about stock cars or really anywhere that you see running here, that's typically where you'll see drivers form up. And it really seems like from the first couple of laps that I've watched here is, Frisch and Hagenstein got really close there for the lead. Jack Painter's going to go around the outside. It seems like we talk about 2-car tandems. It seems like if you can get 3 cars hooked up, that's going to be the best way to do it. 4 is probably a little difficult to do. Frisch is going to get to the high side, but these 3 cars, you're seeing another one form up right here. It's almost 4, and they are easily going to clear Breitschoff there in the second lane.
I've seen up to 5-car tandems work out for some drivers. Down the straightaway is the key word so far, because for those who've seen the action at Texas when it came to the Riley Daytona prototypes, they're very difficult to try and bump with. You bump them in the wrong place in the corners or on down the straightaway even, it can cause some major trouble. It was seen with the quad oval at Texas Motor Speedway. We're seeing that for a couple drivers already, getting some close calls here, but willing to be daring and wanting to be daring, I should say, especially in that tunnel turn to take it 3 wide once again for that race lead as they go back and forth.
Well, again, I wouldn't anticipate them kind of holding back anything. If anything, we've seen this before. The heats in these races are really just a big, long test session for these guys. You can see right now how easy it is to build up a run, how much track position is pretty much meaningless for the start of the race, and really that's all this heat determines is the starting grid for when they'll roll off and take the green flag. But as you can see, you can go from last to first in pretty much 2 corners. So I think these guys are doing exactly what they want to do right here, which is take this opportunity to learn about which lanes work, which lanes tend to have all that help that you need to be able to go forward, and kind of where you want to be when the pack's formed up. We only have about still 9 cars up here at the front of the pack, so when we get to about 17 here for this race, it'll definitely change. But that's the biggest thing is with all this track position basically being thrown out the window, you're really just using this as a way to learn and find out which lanes you want to run in.
Exactly, and this is going to be very vital information that the top 2 in Molo and McConville may not have, especially since some of them weren't up to speed in the later stages of practice here. But with 4 to go, this could go either way for how things play out for who starts 3rd and 4th here, because it seems Hagenstein's one of the most aggressive drivers. Martin put in a ton of preparation. Michael Frisch is also someone that seems very confident on the bump draft. All those drivers could be the drivers that we see try and battle for the checkered flag here in this qualifying race. As Naraki, he's trying to be very daring to the point where he's up in the marbles.
It may not be marbles for long. And oh, one car's going to get turned here. Jeremy Clapper off his nose. He's able to keep it rolling. One car sitting here in the infield grass. It is Adam Martin, who looks like he got turned. He was running in the middle off of turn 2. And it looks like he kind of followed Michael Frisch with a block. And unfortunately, Jeremy Clapper was on the inside when he made that maneuver. But no harm, no foul. Obviously, he won't be a part of this battle for this heat win the last 3 laps here. But again, this is just a learning experience, so no harm, no foul, really, in my opinion.
Now, the interesting thing when it comes to this race, though, is I think as long as they don't get more aggressive than this in the main race, Blake, there's a chance we see green flag pit stops come into play, because these drivers have to make at least 1 stop during the main race. So that's something these drivers are going to have to think about. But the problem is going to be, this is getting overly aggressive to this point. Drivers are smacking off the walls, trying to push 3 wide and putting themselves into terrible situations here. But there's that top line I was talking about coming in.
Well, again, it's just there's so much room. If anything, I think it forms up just because you had the wall that really cuts everything off, and a big move by Michael Frisch behind this pack of 3 cars to make a move. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you go to the wall, you can't go any further to the outside. And, you know, there's just so much maneuverability with these cars. When I say there's a middle lane, that kind of encompasses 3 or 4 lanes here at Pocono. And I just think getting up by that wall, it restricts them, and you can see the middle there even kind of moving up into the high line, but there's always going to be people on that high line, it seems.
Absolutely, and a bad move right there. Going right for the opening was Jeremy Clapper. What a save, though, that time. I believe that was Brian Kita who nearly spun it around as a result of that contact.
That is a crazy save there by Brian Kita, and then he ends up having contact further back. But right now they're 3 wide. They're looking for two-car tandems, and looks like Breitschoff going to go to the bottom here, but white flag is out, and there's two-car tandems formed here at the front of the pack as they enter turn 1.
This could go into several different ways, especially with the fact we've seen it go 3 wide several times over. But the problem is Frisch and Poulin are working together better than anyone else in this field. This is going to make it very difficult to build up the proper run. There's the block.
Contact made. Frisch is still able to hold the lead, and he is blocking for his life. Swerving all over the racetrack. He's single file. 1 car spins into the turn 2 wall. He's able to collect it by using the wall, but where will everybody go? This is going to be insane. Brian Kita and Jeremy Clapper may have a good run here out of turn 3.
Well, this is going to be an absolute drag race here. Gonna come down to how well the pushers go here down the straightaway.
And Frisch is going to get left and abandoned, and they're going to wreck behind them, but it looks like the high line prevails. Tristan Hagenstein is going to win this heat, start third in this race, and that shows you exactly why the bottom is so vulnerable. Frisch went up and moved in the middle, and he realized he had no help with him. He tried to go and basically just hit Hagenstein in the door. You realize right there he has no help, and he did all he could do here in a heat race to just try and win it. He goes up and tries to hit Hagenstein, an unsuccessful move right there, but man, it's going to be crazy off of turn 3. You have cars getting runs. You have the leaders who want to block everybody, and then they get left out to hung out to dry. So it's going to be crazy to see how this thing, when we get more cars out here, and it's really for all the marbles. It's crazy to think about the moves that we might see here tonight.
It's going to be wild, some of these moves. In the later stages in particular, I feel, because that's where the intensity level starts to pick up, especially once drivers know they're going to be good to go on the gas. And that's going to be the critical part is, will we see green flag pit stops come into play? Because these drivers, in their practices at least, were able to secure full runs of upwards of 10 plus laps. The problem has been, we've seen that's easier said than done when it comes to 17 cars on the track compared to 7 in a line. So all that's going to be in discussion for some of these drivers in their minds, as well as how they play this main race tonight, because as you talked about, position could go either way. In track position, you can gain it in one lap, you can lose it the next lap once you lose your dancing partner.
You definitely can, and you just have to keep all of that in mind going forward. Of course, the one thing I love to think about in super speedway races all the time is green flag pit stops. Those always seem to be a great separator, and we've seen it time and time again. Even in this series, the amount of strategy that comes into play. I know at Michigan we saw a bunch of different strategies, all jockeying against each other to see which one would work. And I think that'll, it's key anytime you come to a track where you can't really get away as the leader. You got to execute. You got to get on pit road. You can't make any mistakes and lose time. And you can see right there somebody taking the access road there in turn 2. But again, that is out of bounds for this race. I misspoke a little bit earlier. So as much as it would kind of be cool to see them try that access road in turn 3. I tried it with the Star Mazda once in Grape Drink, and it is hard to hold it down there, but it's worth just a little bit of time.
Here's the thing, though. 1, it's cutting the track. 2, there's not a lot of grip. 3, I can likely see someone go up the track and then end up being like Cosman here and flip over the pit wall. And I don't think we want to see that happen tonight. Let's put it that way.
Well, maybe not with these cars. Again, I think a Star Mazda probably has a little more downforce than what these cars have, and probably aren't going as fast either. So that obviously would kind of help the situation there. But nevertheless, I don't think that's going to negate from any of the intrigue of this race. I still think that we have a great package right here. We got some drivers who have had a little bit of experience with this car in this series, so it should be fun to see how they stack up. A lot of these guys have pretty much shown up to every race we've had in this series, so everybody's kind of learned each other, how they drive, and we'll just see how they get to the end. 50 laps here. It'll take a little bit, but it'll also go by in the blink of an eye, it seems.
Yeah, the lap time's about just a minute a lap. So when you average it out, we're talking about, if it goes green, about at the max, 45, 50 minutes. But that's the thing. Will it go green with how things play out with the series? It's going to be the biggest question mark, especially with some of the aggression levels we've seen before. It's going to be the matter of trying to have cautious aggression or time up that aggression for the right moments and the right times if you want to take this checker flag, in my opinion, or else you're going to end up being one of these cars that goes into the grass like Andrew Hardcastle here. And I don't think you want to have that happen, to say the very least, because while there's the fast repair available, you don't want to rely on either Blake, because if you use it early, puts you in a spot where if you have to use it later on, you don't have it when you get into an big incident, if it ends up happening.
I think the one thing you have to keep in mind is with these tracks, and especially with this car, even more so than Michigan and the Cup car or anything else, these guys are going to be right on top of each other the entire race. And, when we have a big accident, we've seen them in this series before. You're thinking 10, 15 cars. These cars, pretty much, if they take any damage, they're pretty much done. You have to almost have to use that fast repair. But we have 17 cars out there, so that's big enough that we can have one wreck at any given point that takes out 10, 12 cars or puts them in a position where they have to use that fast repair, and it's a good majority of the field. So it'll be interesting to see how we run with 17 cars, and if we run into a little bit of attrition, are we going to see 4 or 5 cars left at the end of this thing that have a car that's capable of going up and winning this race? So there's just a lot of different things that can happen, and excited to see how it plays out.
Absolutely excited myself to see how things go for these drivers, but I think they're just about all set to go, and as some of them get the last of the incidents out of their system, I believe it's now just about time for them to start to roll these cars to the starting grid to see how things play out for tonight for the 50-lap main.
Set to go here from Pocono Raceway, and the grid is going to look like this. How about Justin Melillo taking the pole in qualifying, as obviously he got the free pass up into the front row along with Mike McConville, courtesy of their laps that they put down in qualifying. They got to skip the heat, and they will start in row number 1. Tristan Hagenstein and Jake Poulin will start side by side in row number 2. Row number 3 goes to Luke Breitschoff and Brian Keita. Michael Frisch will start in the 7th position on the inside of row number 4 next to Jeremy Clapper. Jack Painter will start in 9th, and Ryan Naraki will round out the top 10.
11th spot goes to Clint Roberts with Adam Martin in 12th position. Keep an eye on him to see how he pushes through the field. One of the drivers involved in that big one in the first laps of the qualifying race. He starts in 13th position against Andrew Hardcastle, 13th and 14th. Mertzda starts in 15th position with Cosman Ineshu starting in 16th position. Dylan Connolly rounds out the 17 drivers who made it to the grid for tonight. Keep in mind that for Dylan Connolly, his first start, believe, potentially this season.
And he's one of the few rookies in this series, or at least drivers looking at these names recognize a lot of them that they've been running a very good portion of the schedule. But obviously Connolly new to this series, and it'd be interesting to see. Again, we talked about experience even running this series with this car. We saw it a little while ago at Legacy, Texas. We got to see the lights come on, and it was really something to see them try to race in the dark and have to use their taillights. We won't be in that situation right now. 7:36 a.m. Here at Pocono Raceway, so no danger that we'll be in any situation where we have to use the headlights on the race car. 65 degrees, so relatively cool conditions, much cooler than it was in North Wilkesboro just a couple hours ago when we were racing there, 83. So it's definitely much cooler here up in the mountains in Pocono, and a decent amount of humidity, 30%, but nevertheless, just excited to get this thing going. I'm sure a lot of these drivers are as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun race, I think, for sure, to see who can come away with a checkered flag, and this is going to be an eventful one. I think overall, we may see some longer runs as well, as talked about a little bit, so it's going to be fun to see who can hold on and try and get the best runs possible with these machines tonight.
I'm really interested to see here Pocono's strategy. You talk about numbers, you talk about Speed Incorporated, what they were able to try to pull off in Michigan. Do we see something similar here at Pocono where you can obviously pit and not go a lap down? You can add a little bit of fuel and you don't have to worry about going a lap down in this car. So will we see teams separate, try to form up a 4 or 5 car pack while everyone else is battling, try to make up some time that way? A lot of possibilities here for 50 laps, and we'll see how it unfolds as the green flag is out. And Justin Melillo led them to the green, but he does not get the shove. It is Mike McConville, high side of that first row, who will get it from Jake Poulin as they work into turn 1.
Almost wonder if Melillo didn't have the right gear possibly to try and get the launch as well as that timing of the shove. Just seemed like just couldn't get the timing down on that launch despite being the control car there. Already back to 5th position. We talked about how easy it could be to lose that track position. That's one of the ways right there.
And I think early on, you'll see, again, it is going to be hard to keep these guys up front. These guys are battling for points. If you lead the most laps, you get more points. So these guys are going to be very aggressive up here at the front. We can see another 2-car tandem forming on the top here. Tristan Hagenstein trying to go up front and lead a lap. But again, you want to lead the most laps. You also have a fastest lap that is up for grabs, and of course that seems pretty simple. You want to get in the back of the pack and just have an entire lap where you don't have to lift and you get all the draft in the world. As we already see Mike McConville leads lap 1, and they're 3 wide right now for 2nd.
And there's Malone able to find some help, in fact, to retake the race lead after starting on the pole. That's Ryan Naraki willing to push him. But the problem is they couldn't stay hooked up together, and they already are hooking up on that top line again.
That just goes to show you how quick runs die out, how quickly they can form. We don't know. Melillo could be leading when we get back to the stripe after losing it here as they work into turn 2. You see Melillo right there. He's working up on Ryan Naraki, who holds control of the race lead for the time being. But it looks like a lot of these guys, about half the field is really just watching these guys battle up front. You can see 2 rows back there. A lot of guys just trying to get out of the way, at least try to get a couple laps in. Pretty single file as a couple of cars will run right down there in the checkered flag pattern by the pit wall. So they're battling up front for certain. They're trying to see who can lead those laps, but otherwise I think everybody's realizing there's a long way to go here, 50 laps, and it's very hard to lose the pack. So they almost fell off so bad I thought they were pitting for a second, but it seems like we're kind of forming a nice little line here on the high side.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth amongst these drivers, and I don't blame some of the errors for wanting to sit back and watch to see what the main pack does, because we've seen how aggressive they were in 10 laps. And there's that potential possibility for a couple of the drivers. But this is right where what I was seeing for drivers earlier on is be a bit more calmer, more precise in the movements, just try and stay in a line and figure things out early on in this race. The thing I'm noticing as well, though, is these drivers are nearly clipping the grass through the corners to the point where they're on the rumble strips and already burning up blades of grass. They're that close to the inside here as Hagenstein to set inside.
Ryan Naraki will go down to block that run. Is now, a little bit of contact perhaps as Melillo gets shoved up the racetrack. He's able to hold on to that car. Hagenstein looking for any way around Naraki, and there's just 4 cars very quickly already formed on Naraki, who has nowhere to go. He has no help. They're going to look 3 wide just behind him. Jack Painter looking to make a run. So this is probably the most difficult race we've seen this season, where probably the worst place to be is the leader, because you just cannot block 5 lanes, and you can't stop just the amount of runs that are going to come at you, and with how fast they're coming at you, there's almost nothing you can do if people want to try and get out of the way. But looks like Hagenstein able to lead this lap.
Naraki actually dragging the brakes a little bit as well to try and prevent from getting too hard of a bump back into Mike McConville, but that heart of the pack continues to be crazy, and more drivers continue to drop on back, because you mentioned the door-to-door contact. Very easy to do off these corners with how tight they're running each other and how much speed they're able to carry in the apexes of these corners. And for several of them, expect those incidents, especially early on, to come from those types of hits.
Those type of hits, and we about had another one up front. Tristan Hagenstein got all out of shape. He is still blocking for the lead. They're 3 wide, 2 rows deep behind him. Here comes Justin Melillo on the bottom. It's just hard to take our eyes off of the lead right here. There's so much going on. So many guys jockeying for position, trying to lead the most laps that they can. And Naraki, a tight move up the middle, 3 wide behind them.
Remember, Melillo needs points without the drop factored in. 7th in the points entering tonight, 8. That is about more than 50 outside the playoff picture at the moment. So at this moment, he needs to find a way to close up and gain valuable points. And it looks like his strategy tonight, try and stay up at the front. Same for Michael Frisch's. Nearly somebody got turned, just about.
Well, he just about got turned. They were just about looking 4 wide for a moment as Michael Frisch went to the bottom. You could see tight quarters right there. Frisch left out to dry, doesn't have any draft in front of him and not getting a whole lot behind him from Connolly, so he's going to fall back, make it 2 by 2. Melillo shoved in the middle, kind of loses a little bit of his drafting help. And this is exactly, oh man, Frisch and Melillo are so tight there off the corner. Naraki going to get control of the lead, and oh man, they're out of shape, bumping each other right up here on the wall. That was almost a big accident. So the temperature is definitely turning up here. And again, we're only on lap 7.
And this is exactly where the incidents came into play at Texas, remember, especially in the quad oval, is misaligned bumps with that back end, which is so easy to end up happening. So these drivers need to be very precise in those movements, and we've seen that so far. But already, another change for the lead coming. Here comes Cosman up at the front of that blue Kool-Aid machine.
Cosman trying to do what he can to control the front of the field, but you see just as quickly as he had it, he gets split. Melillo backed out, and now he'll get back in line with him. But obviously, Ryan Naraki, Mike McConville had too much of a run right there. 37 will go to the lead. And again, I wouldn't be surprised to see 37, 24, 53, all 3 of those Speed Inc. drivers up front. And you imagine that they'll line up and kind of work with each other at some point. You see Melillo willing to work here with Cosman checked up for him and trying to get him up front.
And you have to think that's the game plan. Control the front of the field, have your team control the momentum and the ebbs and flows of the pack. It makes it easier, especially in super speedway racing, if you can all work together as a collective unit to be able to make that work. But the problem is everybody's trying to break up the collective unit. They all want to go 3 wide again.
Oh, and there's going to be contact there. Somehow they keep it going straight. Cosman Yaneshu and Michael Frisch hit there in the tunnel turn. They're able to keep it going straight. And boy, is this they can't keep this up forever. I know there's a lot of talented drivers in here. They're bump drafting. They're trying to help each other. At some point, there's just got to be a very slight mistake in here that goes awry. I don't think these guys can keep it up much longer if they're going to keep bumping and making contact like they did right there. 3 wide contact, and you make it out of the tunnel turn. I think you could chalk that up more to luck than anything. I don't think you can pull it off that many more times before you have a big accident.
Definitely takes a lot of talent to be able to properly make your way around this racetrack, for one, with the speeds, but for 2, to properly make your way around this racetrack when you're getting bumped and hit hard, especially with the chance for the air to be taken off or you to get turned around by a bad bump. All of that can come into play when it comes to this type of a package, and we're seeing that come into play here. What a push there for Cosman to get up to the front from Justin Melillo.
And there you see the teammates working out. It ends up biting Justin Melillo. He loses a couple of spots, but now it's on the 84 to block Naraki. Is Naraki going to try to go for a lap lead here? It doesn't look like for the moment. He's just going to tuck in line, and everybody, again, still forming up on that high side. That seems to be the preferred line on the straightaway, as everybody can't really decide exactly where they want to go if they're not running there. It seems to be just kind of where everybody forms up, and it's top 3. They're really getting away from the rest of the pack here.
Yeah, right now I've noticed for sure that Cosman, Naraki, and McConville all know how to work together and seem to be communicating at least in a way that allows them to be able to bump away. But the problem is, it's so difficult to break away, because one lap they can have one of the fastest of the race, Jack Painter, for example, in 6th position. The next race, or the next lap, you end up being 6/10 slower because in part of the pack. So all that comes into play, and keep in mind, you must stay in the draft to be able to keep your momentum up. Jeremy Clapper has managed to lose the pack and is running 3 seconds slower lap times as they nearly hit up front.
Well, one thing, if you're the leader, it's because if you're the leader, you're just so much slower. And no matter how much someone pushes you, as Melillo nearly pushed up there, got it in the back of McConville. That was some tight quarters right there. But if you're the leader, you're just so much slower. More contact there for 2nd. And now here comes Michael Frisch on the outside. hits Mike McConville there in the corner, or on the straightaway rather, gets to his outside, and now he'll challenge for the lead. 84 gets run into by the McConville, and now it looks like Ryan Araki comes to the rescue of the driver of the 84. So these guys are really going after it here. Frisch trying to get that high side to kind of flex its muscles like it was a little bit earlier. But again, I just don't see, we're 3 wide all the way throughout the pack. I just cannot see this working much longer.
Especially as these tires start to go off, and we've seen that come into play a little bit at Texas as well. As the tires started to wear, it became harder and harder for some of the drivers to keep up the speed in the draft. And I think that's in part where we're seeing some of these slide-ups start to factor in. The fall-off now for the pack has just hit more than a second and a half already to the 56-second bracket this lap.
And again, it's one of those things, you want to have tires, you want to be able to make these corners, but if you're slow in the corners, well, guess what? That just means you get to run everybody else down the straightaways with the draft. So that's really where the super speedway comes into this. I don't think tires really matter if you mess up and contact. Frisch goes around at the front of the pack.
And a big mess up there as the caution flag is out. Michael Frisch now with significant damage, as talked about bad bumps, got a bump in the corner and then got tapped a second time. That spun him around.
Yeah, that was tough right there. Really tight corners. Of course, the 84 trying to go around the 58, gets into the back of him in the corner, and then I'm not sure if it was intentional or not. I mean, clearly I don't think it was, but you see initial contact on entry. They hit pretty square, and then obviously getting a run and just trying to cut down, I think, take that run underneath him, and just ended up tagging Frisch. A really impressive job by everybody else to scatter around. The fact that that was only a one-car incident was pretty impressive. Maybe Ryan Naraki, he got a little piece of that, got up into the wall. But you see the initial contact, bam, right there, gets him out of shape, peeks to the inside, and then obviously you see Frisch go around there, but only 2 cars even got a piece of that. That was a vulnerable position on the track for that to happen, so lucky they escaped with just 2. But now do you take that fast repair if you're Michael Frisch or if you're Ryan Naraki? That's kind of the question here.
Michael Frisch may be able to get away with it, possibly. We've seen how well, surprisingly, drivers with damage work before. Naraki, though, this is the most significant damage we've seen from a driver still in the main pack, so he might potentially have to use one with that tweak to the rear wing. We'll have to see what he elects to do, if he manually elects to get that wing fixed or get manual damage repair. Because here's the thing too, this is a massive track. The pace laps can be long here, of up to nearly a couple minutes. So it allows an opportunity for drivers to get a lot of the damage fixed that they can have on the race car. So that's definitely going to be taken into account.
No, absolutely. You can fix a lot, and at least from what I can see, I think that's what Cosman's going to do. He's going to try to fix the damage, which he had a little bit while he was leading, had a little bit of right front damage. And there's been a couple of these drivers that, with all the bump drafting that they've been doing, you can definitely bump a little bit. And actually, yeah, the 84 is going to use that fast repair as well, as they buff that out before my eyes. So Cosman utilizes that fast repair. We'll have to see what Michael Frisch did on his pit stop. Looks like he's going to use his as well. Naraki, so a couple of these guys already, they know how important that damage is, and apparently they're going to go ahead and fix it here very early on.
Yeah, absolutely. So this caution flag, by the way, helps Jeremy Clapper here, but the thing is, surprisingly, Clapper elected not to pit, so he decided, you know what, we have to come in and pit for fuel anyway. May as well stay out on the racetrack. The problem is, he can only stay out until about maybe lap 28 to lap 30-ish when you factor in the caution flag. So there's a chance he might have to duck in on his own if he doesn't get a timely caution flag, if he isn't at said caution.
It's going to be interesting. That is definitely a bold strategy right there to try and stay out and try to take. So either that, or he's going to wait one lap, and even with the penalty he would get,
and
he would
get the lap lead, yeah.
Yeah, so he gets the lap lead, which actually I don't know if he would get the lap lead. He'll probably be passed on pit road here.
Right. You're right. He was scored 8th last time, and it looks like he will stay out. So again, an interesting call here from Clapper. Again, remember, he was backing up very hard, Blake, up to 3 seconds slower a lap, and was up to 18 plus seconds back of the main pack as McConville and Frisch have topped off to come down one more time as we get the one to go.
Actually, he just put a message over the in-game chat, sorry, pass right. So I don't think he intended to stay out. I think he wanted to do exactly that. He wanted to get his lap and then get his lap led and then come down pit road. And I think he realized he had to stay out to get that lap led. So he did, and now we're on the one to go. So he can't pit. So I think that was just a mistake on his part.
It's confusing either way. Yes, the points are going to be valuable, but at the same time, you know, as a driver, it's a quick yellow racetrack, and he was several seconds behind the pack. We'll have to see how it now plays out because he's made his bet essentially here with this call.
Well, and again, I think by the racing that we've seen, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, we get another yellow flag here. He gets another yellow, he's fine. And, you know, I guess this gamble, you could call it to get a lap led, is not really going to hurt him at all. But we'll have to see. And everything with fuel, obviously, he wasn't able to take any. So we'll see how it sorts out. But I wouldn't be too shocked. I don't see us going green to the end here. So I think he won't be in too bad of a position. You have to remember, he could probably still pit under green here and have quite a few laps that he could run on his own before he would ever be in danger of going a lap down too. So even if he has to pit, it's not going to be, I don't think, too big of an issue.
We'll have to see how this all works out is the main thing. By the way, Kita was the driver who won the race off the pit lane with the only driver in the 10-second bracket of pit stops. Everybody else, 16 seconds or more.
You see right here, they're 3 wide for the restart. Naraki was on the outside of Brian Kita. He ducks back in line, gives up that spot. That was an interesting. I've never seen them 3 abreast at the front of the field, but you see Jeremy Clapper, he did have the lead. Now he has older tires too, so we'll see if he has quite the same pace as everybody else. It looks like so far so good as Hagenstein moved up into Malillo, nearly made contact with him there, as I think he just wanted to get around Clapper. And I think you can see right here, Clapper's starting to fade a little bit with no help on the inside.
Yeah, everyone, I think, is just trying to drive right on by him, and Clapper's been trying to play this conservative here. So at this point, if I'm Hagenstein, I try and get up to this middle and try and quickly get by that 94. That's exactly what he's done, is the front trying to dice itself around a little bit back and forth.
Trying to shake things up here. You see, again, Clapper on the inside, but up front leading those laps. Ryan Naraki once again has been very aggressive, trying to get that early lead. And he's been, I'm pretty sure he's led the most laps so far. If I had to guess, definitely by the eye test, he would have led that many. But he's got a teammate in Justin Malillo with him, and that may be good news from the 37. And just as I say that, Malillo will poke out a line. But Brian Kita elects to go with Naraki, so then you'll see Malillo go. That's the other thing about this style of racing is if you are Justin Malillo, and oh boy, Naraki gets out of the way, checks up, and I don't know, that was a very strange move. It's almost like he tried to bait someone into turning into the wrong lane or something and perhaps caused something, I don't know. But Naraki got out of the way, and Malillo right now in control of the lead.
And remember, Naraki already gets the fast spur. I'm wondering if he's thinking this is getting way too aggressive for my taste and just backed off, because it's looking like that's exactly what he's doing. He's backing off. He's trying to get out of this pack.
I don't know if he just doesn't want to be up here anymore, or maybe he's going to go back there and save a little bit of tires, save a little bit of fuel, whatever he wants to do. But whatever the case, he did not want to be up front any longer. He made that painfully clear with how he got to the back very quickly, hit the brakes, and we'll have to see him try to rally his way back up, I'm sure, in a short little while. But up front, once again, we continue to see how dominant this top line has been, and especially on these straightaways, everybody goes up, and if you're the car on the bottom, you're just kind of in a bad spot. You see the one car there just continuing to fade. That's Brian Kita. He just has no help down there.
Yeah, just no one willing to try and stay in that line and try and bump around in the tunnel turn in particular. So it just seems to be that trend throughout this entire race now. There is a good amount of speed when you work together on the bottom line, I've noticed, though. Coming out of turn 3 to be able to get the run down the front straightaway. We may see a lot later on in this race as Connolly to the front.
Connolly up to the race lead. Melillo looking high. Where's Kita going to go? He's going to tuck right up behind Connolly, give him that shove. But Melillo's got help as well. On the top side, it is with Jake Poulin. But here comes a third lane on the bottom, nearly into the grass on the rumble strips. A huge run from Tristan Hagenstein. That breaks up the second lane. And then here comes Decon once again on the very inside of Hagenstein.
One aggressive moves here is Connolly hitting the rumble strips again. This is going to be tight once more. Hagenstein, I think, realized that and just gave him a lot of space now as all those lines start to form up. More momentum, though, on that top line. More numbers.
Certainly the case here, as you see 4 right there on the top side, just 2 in the middle. The bottom line just completely goes away. They'll have to regroup and try it once again. Hagenstein gets to lead that lap. And one thing that's kind of was a story coming into tonight, Justin, Sean Butler, second in FTF Super Speedway Series points. He doesn't come out here tonight. He's not going to be able to gain anything. So that's obviously a big development when you're talking about the championship and winning the points, as Butler was not able to make his way out here tonight.
Very unfortunate, and it puts him in a box now where, depending on how the drops fare out, he might be one of your drivers who needs to scrap hard and fight hard to make sure they have a chance for the championship in a couple weeks or so. So something that has to be kept in mind is, how does Sean Butler then in turn end up racing the next race? So we'll have to wait and see now as a result of that, as they continue to shuffle around going into turn 1. They were racing into the sun, keep in mind, Blake. That was affecting a bit of the visibility potentially, but that sun has now gone out of the driver's eyes, and now they can see proper.
And that is one thing that, you think it may not happen as much or matter as much in a sim, but visibility in the sun, it can even be something in a sim, and it kind of just depends on the setup you have, whether you have triple monitors, all that, but you can have certain brightness settings that make it very difficult, as we are now 4 abreast for the race leader. They're going to be able to fit that. Brian Kita, a big move there down on the bottom, just able to get past Justin Melillo, and now Melillo, he's not going to take that. He's going to try to do the same thing to him and try to beat him back to the stripe. This is just some crazy stuff we're seeing up here.
Absolutely hectic once more, as now Kita working with Hagenstein. Melillo wanted to work, it looks like, with Cosman now in that middle line. They've also picked up, it looks like, Jake Poulin, who now wants to start and come out and play at the front.
Poulin had the lead just a little bit earlier. It was a couple laps ago. Now they're 4 wide for second. Melillo fading back. They're now 3 for the top spot. Now 4 as Connolly there on the bottom. Hagenstein in a big bonus for momentum as Hagenstein goes around and up and over and into the catch fence. A hard hit for a yellow 68 machine that Brennan Merzda is piloting tonight. A huge accident here in turn 2 as they looked 4 wide, and there just simply wasn't enough room for that. It goes very wide for both Merzda and Hagenstein. Definitely going to be some fast repairs utilized there. Only a 2-car accident somehow with them going 4 wide into the tunnel turn.
Well, technically 3 when you include Melillo as well, who took a significant hit the second part around from off Hagenstein, but it looked like somebody just didn't realize it was 4 wide. There was a bit of a squeeze, it looked like, from Kita. He came down a little bit. Hagenstein came down a little bit. That went into Melillo's front end, and as you can see, chaos ensues as a result, and blown motors and cars upside down.
Take one more look at it right here. You can see Melillo is going to be where this all kind of starts, and Hagenstein, not only does he have issues right here, his engine just blew trying to get back to pit road, so even though he's going to be able to use a fast repair, he's going to have to take a tow. He may go a lap down. And you see right there, Melillo moves up just a little bit, trying to give room to the car that was on his inside. They make a little bit of contact, and just a really violent wreck there on the exit of the corner. They keep it in the catch fence as everybody else pretty much checks up to avoid it, but really tough hit, but somehow we only get 2 cars out of that. That no doubt about it, they'll be using that fast repair when they get to pit road.
We might see Malone one as well. He got that front end crunched in hard on the 53 machine. And you'll see from full speed from the back end, Michael Frisch, one of the drivers who already used the fast repair. And you have to be very vigilant when you see cars flying like that and hope that they don't fly on top of your car.
Well, the best way to do that is see that yellow flashing light right there and just turn on the binders. And luckily he was able to do that, especially he doesn't have a fast repair left. So if he got involved in that, he'd be done for the night. So that was tough for him. But I think that's why he was back there. He knows he doesn't have a fast repair left. He's not going to push the issue and be put in a position where he's not going to be able to continue and finish this race. He knows that he still has over half of this race to go to be able to get to the end.
Looks like a couple drivers electing to mix things up on strategy. I believe the 56 missed the pit lane. Keita and Painter going with fuel with the rest of the drivers' tires. Of note, Malou is getting the manual damage repair done, so he's electing to bank the fast repair. No, he actually, I believe, may have just checked it back on.
So there's Malillo. He's able to use that fast repair as his car gets fixed. And I just wonder how many we have left. There's obviously the 2 that were involved in that latest accident. We had about 2 or 3 cars already use it. So about half the field roughly has kind of gone through that fast repair already. And I mean, I guess it makes sense. We are about halfway through this race. So obviously if you have that one in your back pocket, it's a very easy opportunity to stay aggressive and try to lead all those laps. And if you're not, you really just kind of have to you're forced to sit around and either be conservative or take a big risk to try and go up there and lead when, all the points are paying out at the end of this thing. So I'm not sure why you would want to push that, but, that's why I'm up here in the booth and not down there driving right now.
By the way, Malou has clarified, it appears, that he did not use the fast repair, so it looks like he might have got both ends, the wing, the front and back ends, essentially replaced chassis-wise. So may have got some luck there, as the 56, who did end up missing his pit box, coming in for service here with the one to go signal this time by, and one driver having to let by several others. It's Mike McConville, it appears, as we get that one to go signal. So been an entertaining race so far. Just 2 drivers, 1 lap down as a result of the fast repairs, and fuel is no longer an issue here for competitors. So that's also something to think about, since they can now make it on the gas.
And we actually just had a development. We're going to go another lap under caution here, as looks like I don't know, not trying to look around for a situation, or if they decided they just needed to go one more lap around.
I wonder if it's because Mike McConville was stopped in the front straightaway. Oh, that may have been enough, since he was essentially stopped to trigger the delayed caution or delayed green as a result here, because he was trying to let by the rest of the cars.
That's a very interesting hypothesis there, but I think you're right. And he didn't stop. He was going, at least from what I'm showing, he really only slowed down to about 10 miles an hour. So he was definitely, I'm sure he's being barked at to let a couple cars by that were catching him. Ryan Naraki, Michael Frisch, Tristan Hagenstein. There were several cars who had gotten off of pit road. I'm sure he had to let by. So he was just slowing down to let them by, and we end up going an extra lap around. But I wouldn't put that in the feet of McConville. He was just trying to do the right thing and get lined up. But unfortunately, it'll put the lights back on the pace car. We'll have to go one more trip around before we're ready to do it again.
Got to reach halfway this time by as well. So again, keep in mind, fuel not expected to be a major factor unless there are caution flags, which the trends say there is that chance. But as well, if there's GWCs, and I think that's why you may see drivers elect to try and maybe sacrifice track position and charge back up. Malo and Naraki keeping an eye on those two, along with Jake Poole, and they all just ducked in.
Very interesting here, and I think if it's close, you have to come down pit road. I wouldn't blame anybody for coming down here. Again, losing track position is it doesn't mean anything. You can get up to the front in a single lap that we've seen plenty of times tonight. So as long as you don't waste more fuel, because this is a situation where sometimes in iRacing and in real life in general, the reason you don't come down and top off is when you get off a pit road and catch the field, you waste more fuel than if you had just kind of sat on the track, turn your engine off, and coasted. You use more getting onto and off of pit road, but it seems like Melillo, Naraki, the rest of them, they thought it was definitely worth it to go down and add that extra bit of fuel, and we'll try to get there to the end. Again, with potential green-white checkers in play, that could really shake things up on whether they can make it or not.
And I'm expecting a lot of shake and bake type of moves now that the drivers know that fuel is, for the most part, not going to be the major problem set since the range was 26 to 28. It's now going to be, where do the runs come from? Who tries to control the momentum? Who's going to play things out? It's going to be fun. And I think these drivers have been having a ton of fun throughout this night.
That's what this league is all about. Coming out here, having a good time. Obviously, running the Riley DPs at this facility is something that you don't typically see, you don't often do, but that's one of the nice things about iRacing is being able to come on and be able to do some fun things like this, but also bring that competitive aspect to it as well. As we only have 3 cars up here on the high side for this restart as Brian Keita leads them to green. So the bottom line well formed up, but unfortunately Keita, he's going to be outmaneuvered here by the 95 as Connolly looks to go to the lead entering turn 1.
Just doesn't have the help, but Adam Martin is somebody that's been a good helper in regards to tonight throughout the practices to be able to maintain and pick up speed. So I think he's got a little bit of help. One driver, I think, nearly just went off into the grass just about to the back of the field.
They're able to collect it, though. No trouble yet, as there's some more contact back there. One car just seems to be out of shape and losing a ton of spots. It was Ryan Naraki that perhaps got hit. He has a little bit of damage on the right front of his machine, but they keep it going out front. Still looks like 2x2 up here in the front. Adam Martin looking to the outside of Dylan Connolly, trying to challenge for the race lead.
Tried to pull him back a little bit. Getting to the right rear, huge shove to the back of Martin. I think Martin actually took some damage from how hard he just got pushed.
We'll have to see. It's very hard to see right now with how close Cosman is on him. I don't think it looks all that bad, but the 84, big issue there. He gets in the outside wall, got really tight into the corner somehow. 7-Eleven machine runs into the back of him. So somehow issues for Cosman, who looks like he just had some type of issue, but unfortunately, I think he's the one who gets damage out of all this.
Yeah, just pushed hard up the hill after that huge bump draft. I thought it was going to be very hard. It was too hard. How about 4-car tandem drafting now starting to pop up?
Starting to work up front, and you know, it was something that we heard some drivers talk about in practice, that you are going 160 miles an hour, you're punching a hole in the air. These cars don't slow down a lot in the corners. There's a ton of downforce, so what that creates, obviously, the aero push, dirty air. It's going to be a thing in this race when you're running nose to tail like this. You see the cars even scatter a little bit, look and search for a little bit of clean air, but that aero push is certainly a thing, as we have a couple cars spinning here in the back. Clint Roberts stopped here in turn 1, and I think he had a little bit of help from Justin Melillo there.
He definitely got some help from Melillo, and Naraki got absolutely demolished in that as well. Top break for Naraki, who had nowhere to go in the incident, and I believe we'll get a chance to take a look as Roberts was just trying to drop back in the 87. He was in 7th the previous lap, was trying to ride the bottom line, and then Melillo just ends up mistiming and hits him in the back end.
And that's one of those things when you go low, when you try to pull back, when you try to let everybody go, it's typically something that you'll see a lot of drivers do on the straightaway. You don't typically see it in the corner because you're just never really anticipating that quick slow up right there. And, you know, I wouldn't really pin that on Melillo. You don't really expect. He's all the way on the top, diving to the bottom, and it's just hard to expect. You don't think that somebody's going to just kind of lay over and let you go in the middle of the corner like that when you're changing lanes. And then unfortunately for Ryan Naraki, really hard lick right there. That's going to be a significant amount of damage. So either he's got a fast repair to fix it, or he's going to have to do a lot of work and just try to salvage a decent day here with all that damage on the car.
See what he elects to end up doing, but this ends up, I think, making everyone okay on the fuel from this point forward. If they were, even if they don't top off, they should be good to go on the gas. But to emphasize how big the runs have been, Mike McConville, we talked about having to let by everybody before. He's your race leader now, as a result of being able to carve his way through the field, and just that's how the nature of this package has worked today.
No, you're absolutely right that you're never out of this race. That is one thing that we saw when we had this car all the way back at Legacy, Texas. It's just something where, because of the runs you get, because of how easy it is to work your way through the field, you're never out of this thing. We've talked about a lot of players at the front of the field. Naraki was definitely one of them, and we can see the bad luck that has befallen him, and that could be anybody. We've basically talked about every name, at least at one point or another, being mentioned up here at the front of the field, and that just goes to show the maneuverability that this package provides.
Slowly, as some drivers electing to come down and pit, it looks like here, Blake Kosman, Jake Poulin, Michael Frisch, Justin Malone, Naraki, Roberts, Hagenstein, all coming down this time.
All coming down to top off and make sure that they're all good on fuel, perhaps get a little bit of service, a little bit of repairs if they don't have that fast repair, trying to fix everything they can. But as we continue to pace around here, the FTF Saturday Night Super Speedway League, except it's on Friday. We'll go side by side and be right back on the other side of this break.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12-Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Back with you here with coverage of the FTF Saturday Night Super Speedway League presented by STN as we continue to march along here from Pocono Raceway as we've crossed just under 20 laps to go in this 50-lap race. Blake McCandless, Justin Prince on the call for you here, and it's been a fun one. We've seen a lot shake out, and there's still a lot left to unfold here in this race, and just, I can simply put, Justin, I'm just excited to see what these guys come up with, how much they've learned early on in this race, and, you know, with the differing strategies now we have with fast repairs and tires and fuel, whether we can make it to the end. I think most out there are going to be able to do so. Just going to be excited to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how the runs go, how drivers try and play this race. It's been intriguing how the back and forth has been. I think we see drivers make some more daring moves now in these closing stages if they want to try and take the checkered.
You're going to have to do a lot to take that checkered flag. As the green flag is out, Mike McConville had control of the lead, and you could see he backed up very quickly to the 7-Eleven of Brian Keita. Didn't try to allow them to get a run. He wanted to get that push out front, and you could see it works to perfection for the time being. Mike McConville shoved out to the race lead with Keita and Martin both in tow with that push. That three-car tandem, we've talked about it several times here today. Awfully strong, but here comes the run. 4 wide now for second.
Oh, this is going to be terrifying, though, into the tunnel turn. And that time, I think Martin, seeing the danger of that, just backed off because 4 wide, while there is a tiny bit of space, as we've seen, can be a disaster here for this racetrack as they start to bump on the top line.
Yeah, that was exactly the case. Adam Martin said, I've had enough of this. I'll at least back off to see another corner. He's the one who made that a 3-wide battle for the race lead, but he's going to still be aggressive here. He goes to the inside of Dylan Connolly, who, again, has no help behind them. So Connolly dropping like a rock here in the middle of the pack. Martin trying to make something happen, and here comes Ryan Naraki on the bottom. Just below them, they're going to go 4 wide again.
That's even with the significant damages, a major amount of push that time in hitting the bottom of the racetrack. Looked like you almost bottomed out a little bit off those bumps here at Pocono.
And that's definitely something you can do. We've seen these drivers aggressive, running on that rumble strip, running on the grass. Another 4-wide move. It seems to just happen every lap. Adam Martin didn't back out of a 4-wide situation that time as they are able to sort it out. McConville in control of the race lead. They're 3 wide behind. Brian Keita, Jeremy Clapper right now. They're 3 by 3 just behind our race leader.
And it's going to continue to go back and forth for the next 16 laps or so. I think it's the matter, though, of can you get some friends as a bit of bumper tag now starting to come out again with the near 4 wide.
And we've seen a couple of times when they form up on that top side, everybody makes contact trying to bump draft, and it just gets them out of shape. Another big push there for Naraki as he moves all the way up the track. Nearly made contact there with Brian Keita, but somehow keeps it together. He nearly moved up and spun that 7-Eleven, and here comes the 95. Big run on both the inside and outside of what was the race leader and Mike McConville. They'll work 3, they'll scatter 4, and now back to 3 wide for a couple of rows off of 2.
How about 3 wide, 4 rows deep, in fact, now, as some of the teammates are starting to hook up, while others are doing a very impressive job. Milwaukee, despite significant back-end damage, just making that car work. It's going to make it hard to be able to push them as now 3-car tandem draft as they've been able to pull away to the front.
It was a couple of 3-car tandems. It turned into 2 4-car tandems. By the time they made it here to turn 1, you could see those 4 cars linked up. McConville, Naraki, Justin Malillo, and Cosmin Yaneshu right there, who have again found their way to the front of the field. And if they can stay committed, you see right now they're locked bumper to bumper, but there's still just not enough. Hooked up with 4 cars, that leader just slows you down so much. There's nothing they can do about it. And we've seen I just don't think you can tandem enough to pull away and not allow somebody to get a run.
Yeah, I just don't think that's possible with what we've seen. The biggest gap they've been able to build is maybe 3 car lengths, and even then, that puts the whole entire group up for grabs to be able to have a massive run from behind. We've seen it several times, and now that entire group up for grabs again, and now a massive block.
Here battling up front here while 3 drivers, and that's it, as they are 3 by 3, nearly 4. But still 3. Naraki up the racetrack back there in the pack, but Malillo out front, and they are just jockeying everywhere right now. There's really just 3 cars right now on the racetrack that are just kind of sitting back and enjoying the show. Aside from us up here in the booth, of course, Brendan Mersda, Michael Frisch, and now you see Jake Poulin. He ends up backing out of that battle as well. So, and Tristan Hagenstein also trying to watch from a safe distance. So 12 cars all under a blanket, and you may not want to tell them that the race ends in 13 laps. They think that checkered flag is just around the corner.
Yeah, but they've been driving like it's been the last lap since lap 1, it almost seems like. Just the nature of the runs, but man, oh man, and what an entertaining race I have to say it's been so far for these competitors. They've had a lot of respect shown for one another so far with some of these pushes, but now it's the matter of when does everything start to break, and when does that intensity level go up from about a 9, I feel like, to about an 11.
Well, that, and when does it turn into a situation where tires perhaps start to matter? We've seen certain drivers laying back. We've seen drivers get pushed, get a little bit of that aero tight. Are tires going to start to matter here as things ratchet up? Oh, one car on the outside wall. It's Ryan Naraki. May have gotten a little bit of help there. They're able to scatter around, and they'll keep up with it. But still, 3 cars right here at the front. You see Malillo in the lead, Cosman with him, and Mike McConville trying to shove the 84 right into the wall.
Wow. And I think the 84 is okay here, and it looks like they're still grouped together. A big push that time, though. But the back end is damaged on Cosman's machine, and we can see already a bit more shuffling with more contact.
And that was Adam Martin and Dylan Connolly. And Connolly's going to come down, and there was a driver there, and he is going to spin to the outside wall. Caution flag is out here with 12 laps to go. Connolly looked to try and get down, but I think there was Luke Breitschoff, who was right there in the middle of the track, and unfortunately spins the 95. The 56 gets a fair amount of damage as well. The rest of the drivers who we were talking about just trying to play it easy, they were nearly wrapped up in that as well. Michael Frisch had to make some evasive maneuvers, as well as, I believe, a bright yellow car. Yes, that was Brennan Merzda, but we'll see it right here. They shuffle around in front of them. The 95 goes up to the high side, cuts down, and Breitschoff was there.
Yeah, I think he just got the call a little bit late that they were 3 wide. I think he thought he could still diamond it down just in front of Breitschoff, but just wasn't going to work. He got the call probably right there. Was right when they started getting really side by side. But you also have to remember, Blake, you got to predict where some of these runs are going to come in, and we've seen if you end up getting shuffled out on your own that high, you end up losing a lot of momentum, and that was the case there, especially after the pin pawn effect coming into the corner.
Well, exactly. You see the 95, he gets shoved out of shape, and that situation, you just got to be pretty smart there, just kind of collect yourself. You get out of line, it's very easy to get back in and try to make another run at it, but just one of those aggressive moves. You try to get back down in line very quickly, and unfortunately, like you said, you got to be able to anticipate those runs coming, and that's just something that, you know, perhaps not running with this group too many times. It's just one of the things you got to learn on when people are going to go and being able to anticipate those runs that are coming.
Absolutely. And that can take some time to be able to know and predict how drivers are going to run a specific line as well, how drivers are going to handle a situation, how he's pushing hard, or rather who pushes hard, who's more conservative. All that comes from experience, from racing against one another. Sometimes it can take a few races to pick it up. Sometimes they learn the lesson immediately. Sometimes they learn the lesson after about a few years.
Well, and it's actually kind of funny. Dylan Connolly and I, we go way back. I'm talking very beginning of sim racing when I found out it even existed. We're talking all the way back in 2009. He and I were a part of the same forum that kind of basically introduced me to sim racing, let me know that it even existed. You know, I was a very young lad at the time, and had a couple of the Papyrus games and didn't even know that you know, there was multiplayer, that there was online racing, and Connolly was, you know, young like myself, and we were both there and, you know, raced together in the Carolina Classic Racing League on NASCAR 2002, not even 2003. So it was way back in the day. You know, go back a long time, at least in a sim racing type of way, where, you know, we were there from the beginning, and, you know, still here all these years later, I suppose.
I believe he mentioned, surprised not to see him, he actually may have said the following. He feels you're better than him now than it was apparently even compared to when you guys were even back then. So there's that you can have to say about him.
Well, it's just, everybody starts out. I mean, golly, I was 13 at the time, and, just like anybody else that starts out in sim racing, you got to keep your goals small. You got to start by finishing races, then getting top 10s, then top 5s, and then wins and whatnot. So it's definitely a learning process, and anybody that's ever done sim racing or racing in real life has gone through that. When we look at all these guys, it's just easy to assume that everybody's just been good for such a long time, but there's a lot of development that comes in being a sim racer. All these stars that we see in sim racing, whether it's on the road side, whether it's on the oval side, they all had that one moment where they had never done it before and they were just a beginner. And it's just a continuous process that for me may have started 12 years ago. For others, started either less time than that or even way before that. There's been a lot of people in this community for 30, 40 years, some folks. So it's just one of those things that you always gotta be learning, always gotta get better. And I'll leave the court of public opinion on who's better or not, but we all come from humble beginnings, I guess.
I'm not gonna lie, it took me at least a few years minimum to be able to get to a decent race winning pace when I'm in the sim myself, honestly, Blake. And that's in part just from having my own car to be able to drive around and know the brake tendencies and learn that for the pedals, for example, to have that real car feel, and as well just repetition over time to be able to learn the racetracks. It can take some people years in that case. Some people, it's like a light switch. So it just is a person-to-person case in regards to development.
It really is. I would say it was about a year that it really took me to get my bearings under me. I know basically a year after I started sim racing is when I got iRacing and kind of did iRacing for a little bit, then left iRacing, went and did some NR 2003 for a little bit. But for me, it was kind of the opposite. Sim racing taught me how to drive in real life. I went to my driver's test when I was 15 years old and was more comfortable than probably anybody there just because, I'd done sim racing. I wasn't handling a steering wheel and gas and brakes for the first time. But enough for story time. We have a race here and a good story to tell with how the racing we've seen. 8 laps to go. Brian Keita started up front. He has a little bit of damage, though, and I think you can see he's a little hurt by it, but also getting challenged 3 wide by Tristan Hagenstein, who waited that last run, but is going to try to go back to the front here.
A little bit dicey already. Keep in mind, this is where the valuable points are now going to come into line. And what a recovery from Hagenstein. From having to tow, to being able to charge his way to the front, to unlap himself, to now being your race leader once more. What a roller coaster of emotions it's been for Tristan Hagenstein throughout the past 30 laps or so.
Well, and we get to throw another name with that as well. Michael Frisch, another driver who was back there sitting and waiting. He has decided that it's go time. No use in hanging back now. He'll get to the back of McConville, and you see the 3-car tandem surging ahead. Nobody able to get a run. They are pushing each other very well right now. Nowhere for Justin Malillo, even Jeremy Clapper falling back. So it's really the first time we've seen a successful tandem really be able to pull away. But you see in the corner, they break up. They're going to get side by side, and eventually I'm sure that entire pack behind them will be able to run them down.
Another massive push there you just seen from Justin Malillo, and what a shove. How about 2x2 for this race lead? You can see just a decent amount of gap they've been able to build up, but already here comes that run. Now it's Jake Jeremy Clapper rather, who's got a huge run. He wants to take the lead.
Well, the thing is, if you're Clapper, you can make this run. You carry the momentum, but can you clear? Because if you don't, you have nobody behind you, and it looks like he's not going to be able to get clear. So he tries to go for the lead, and you see how it doesn't work out. He had to get it, and he had no help behind him. So after trying to take the lead, he's going to go all the way back to 10th. He's going to have to regroup and try again. But again, that's something that he may be able to use in 6 laps when we get to the end of this thing.
And you have to wonder how many drivers are going to be trying to test out, okay, can I make this run work? Can I make this work? And try and utilize these next few laps as an opportunity. Hagenstein, one of those drivers who trying to make the top line work. He actually smacked the wall.
Hagenstein gets shoved into the wall right there. Michael Frisch cuts down, makes a little contact with Melillo. They keep it going straight, though. The 58 right to the back of Hagenstein, trying to give him such a great run. As you can see overhead right here, Frisch pushing him forward. You can see even in the corner, you'd think in turn 3 of Pocono, you can't be bump drafting, but these cars are capable of it. And you see right there, 2 4-car tandems at the front with 5 to go.
Something's going to have to give here. Somebody's going to have to take a peek, and it's the question of who's going to be the first driver to blink. That intensity level, it just hit 11, and I think it's going to be someone that's going to be right inside this top 8 based on what we've seen throughout this race, though, if they want the realistic shot, because they've been some of the most aggressive drivers this entire race.
My goodness, McConville and Hagenstein, they shoved each other so hard. Can't believe that contact, when they hit each other, they smacked so violently. I can't believe that Hagenstein didn't get out of shape with the block that McConville threw right there, but they have made it work on the high side here, and Frisch is going to follow Hagenstein, abandon McConville there on the top, who has nowhere to go, going to try to get down and use some of that draft, but Hagenstein able to hold on. Frisch not able to get quite clear of the 24, before he gets drafting help, and now Hagenstein's going to leave Michael Frisch out to dry. He says, thank you very much for pushing me the lead, and now, Mike McConville gets turned, and the caution is out.
And this is going to make this closing of the race very interesting, as McConville, I think, just trying to get the run underneath Hagenstein and just came across the very razor's edge of Michael Frisch's machine with the very razor's edge of the left rear.
I think you're exactly right. Frisch was falling, and I think just at the last moment, they ended up coming together. You can see right here, he's going to try to pull out a line at the last second as soon as he gets clear of Frisch to try to get into turn 1 and get under Hagenstein, and he's just not able to get clear. And you see right there, does he make contact with the inside wall? Looks like he's able to just miss it. Nice little loop right there. So no harm, no foul, but he's going to lose all that track position, and obviously, he's going to have to come from the back here on what's going to be our first green, white, checkered attempt.
Yeah, taking our look, and it's exactly what we talked about right here. He just starts to see the opportunity to peek to the inside, try and follow the momentum with Frisch. Just was a razor's edge too close. Needed to potentially have maybe even a couple tenths of a second later, but that's just one of those situations where you see an opening, you try and take it, and he tried to take the opening as soon as it was coming up. Just mistimed just that little extra bit. Here's the full speed.
And of course, you can't see Frisch at all right there, but that's just one of those calculated moves. He felt like he had to take it to try to have a chance to put himself up front, win the race, and just mistimed it there with Frisch, who obviously he's going to try to pinch up. He's trying to get any little bit of draft that he can when he's falling right there. Nothing that really he could have done to prevent that, but it kind of resets them. And again, it's so hard to know. Track position, you want it, but I just don't feel like it's all that important. I wouldn't be surprised if the guy that restarts 13th on this restart ends up winning the race. I just think a lot can happen.
Yeah, this is going to be an eventful one, and you have to give credit again to Hagenstein on the recovery, but also Ryan Naraki, who's since been able to get the repairs done on his machine. And Naraki almost thought about coming in possibly to that fake, nearly drove him to the wall as we get that green, white, checkered confirmation. First of 5 green, white, checkered attempts coming up.
Oh boy, first of 5. That's I tell you what, whoever made that rule definitely wanted to have these teams spend some money, because there is going to be some absolute. I would not be surprised. We already have several drivers that have used those fast repairs. Hopefully you saved them, but my goodness, if we, the thing is, I feel like we might be able to use all 5. I doubt that we make it out of turn 2 for a couple of these with some of the moves that we've seen so far tonight.
I wouldn't be surprised to see that be the case, but I also wouldn't be shocked to see them make it to the white flag and then see carnage in the tunnel turn, just based on how the moves have played out. So it could go either way, where you have madness and a green-white checkered attempt number 2, or you have madness and the winner ends up being 15 feet above the start and finish line. Who knows?
Who knows is exactly right. And the biggest thing is, it can be anybody. We brought 17 cars out tonight. There are still 16 drivers on the lead lap that have the capability of winning this race. It could be anybody, and that's what's so hard about these races, especially when you can get these big runs when track position doesn't seem to matter all that much. You're just waiting around for exactly this, the one part of the race where the money is on the line, the points are being paid out. This is where really it matters. Pretty much everything you did up to this point, it means nothing. You just set yourself up, you're in a certain position, and now you have 2 laps or maybe more if we get a couple of attempts at this green-white checkered to go out and execute and kind of take everything you've learned, find your friends, and take advantage of all that you've kind of garnered and collected over the night.
So we have the 1-go signal. When it comes to friends, keep in mind that you have Naraki in first 2 who are close to winner, and many of the friends overall throughout this field, line to line, aren't necessarily hooked up here. So that may come in a factor of where some of these blocks come in and who tries to work with who to try and get the shove for the race win. It's going to be entertaining. Oh, don't forget, Justin Malillo, I think, is going to be hungry for victory. He's returned back to the picture in 6.
He's returned back in, and this is going to be absolutely wild here. I think what's going to be interesting is we have 16 cars that are going to take the green here. How many are going to make it back? How many have that fast repair? How many don't have it? How many are going to be using it or out of luck after this restart? We haven't seen, we've seen a couple of wrecks, but we haven't seen the big one yet. Are we going to see that when we're coming here on this white lap? I don't know. That's the greatest thing. We just have no clue exactly what's going to happen here.
Welcome to Super Speedway Racing, where it's unpredictable on who can take the checker flag. It's unpredictable what ends up happening in terms of major incidents. We'll have to see how this thing plays out. It's going to be a fun closing stage of this race. The question's going to be, do we take the white flag here, especially since we've only had 5 caution flags, one of the least amount of totals this season, by the way.
It's been relatively tame, but again, we have up to 5 more attempts that we could see here at this juncture. And very early on, Hagenstein going to get a little bit of a jump, kind of baited him just a little bit, and you could see the run that Michael Frisch got. He is all over the back bumper of Tristan, trying to push him forward, but there is a 4-car tandem, and it is just too much right now. It looks like Hagenstein, he has a little bit of damage on the nose, so that might also be slowing him up. But what kind of moves are we going to see here into turn 2? And they're wrecking in the back.
Well, we're seeing cars flying into the air moves. They didn't even make it to turn 2 like you predicted. Wow, a tough break there for a couple different drivers here as we're back in our car, the yellow flag for that second GWC.
Just like that, I was thinking that turn 2 was going to be the trouble spot, and it was going to be up front, but it was in the back of the pack. We see one car flipping. It was Cosmin Yanescu right there. Got a little bit of contact from Jeremy Clapper. You see Clapper just moves a little bit up the racetrack, gets a little tight, tags the 84, and unfortunately sends him over after contact. It looks like Clint Roberts gets involved in it as well. Going to be heavy contact for him. Luke Breitschoff got a little bit of damage on his roof. Looks like Brennan Mersda, nice little effort there to get out of the way. But that's exactly I thought we would see it a little bit later, and I thought we would see it in turn 2. But before, they were about to do some crazy stuff in turn 2. We just didn't really get there first before this happens. And, that's the other thing. You think, well, why are they wrecking for last? They have an opportunity to win. They could be 13th at the white flag and then win this race. And not because of a wreck, but because of the runs that you're able to build up. Everybody up front's going to be abandoning somebody, trying to pass. So you're battling back here for position, and it matters, and you have to take everything you can get at this point.
I agree with you. It's all going to be very vital as a result here for these drivers to sort things out, to be able to try and win. And keep in mind, some of these drivers are starting to save fuel, so it's starting to get tight with these attempts. Want to make sure they have enough gas to make it to the checker flag. And one driver I'm looking at, Brian Keita, might be one of those drivers who isn't the most risk. He is at 20 laps into the stint this time by since the last time he ducked down to the pit lane. He's only had to come in twice, keep in mind.
So if I were in this situation, and this is just me, I would be willing to bet we have up to 5 green-white checkered attempts that we could see in this race. If it were me and we were obviously close on fuel, I think I would just bet on the fact that we are going to see multiple green-white checkers. I would come down, add your fuel now, let these guys wreck a couple of times, and then you get the track position when they have to come down pit road. And if they don't, again, you're in 10th with 2 to go. That is not something that you can't overcome. So I know we hear a lot of clutching right now. Everybody's trying to save. 5 green-white checkers is a lot, but I would definitely come down pit road right now. Go ahead and fuel it up, and, it kind of banking on the fact that if we get more green-white checkers, I'm going to have better track position at the end. And if we don't, I'm just as liable to win from 2nd with 2 to go as I am from 10th if we don't get a caution. So I would just go ahead and get it out of the way.
I mean, I would try and get it out of the way as well if I felt like I was confident enough to be able to break through the pack. And the interesting thing is, Poulin, Brightjoff, Roberts, all are drivers who elect to do that, along with Cosman, who it's understandable for Cosman as well. So it is doable to work your way from the back, as we've seen, but you need to have help. That's going to be the tough thing, is can they find enough help to be able to make it work in just 2 laps? We'll have to wait and see here.
Well, I do think that Tristan Hagenstein is in good shape. It seems like ever since he got to the front, Michael Frisch has been willing to work with the 27 car. So I wouldn't be shocked to see, especially Hagenstein, in a really good position here. Naraki and Painter, they're not exactly teammates, so they may not hook up as well. And you're exactly right. You need that help, at least to get to the white flag and have that track position. Again, at the end of this thing, every man is for themselves. There's not going to be a whole lot of help. So if you can find it, it is going to be a huge advantage to continuing to keep up your momentum, keep your track position, and have a shot at the end.
Keep in mind, with the 1-to-go signal as well on the racetrack, Tristan Hagenstein has been trying to essentially control the bubble. And the interesting mark is, how much will that front end damage be an impact here for this restart? Because we've seen drivers make their cars work despite the damage because of how big some of these runs are. And we've seen the maneuverability from Naraki in particular still there if they have damage to the back end. So it is still possible. But it's about, as well, are drivers going to be willing to work with you having a crumpled in front nose or that little wrinkle on the left rear that can impact how they push? All that is going to be thought about here. I wouldn't be surprised too, by the way, in terms of the help. We see a couple different drivers hook up quickly here when this green flag flies and try and get a freight train working.
A lot of variables to come into play, and again, everything comes down to this. 2 laps to go. Green-white checkered attempt number 2 of a possible 5 if we run them all out. Can they make it to the end of this one on fuel? There's a lot left to be decided. Pace car going to pull off, and Tristan Hagenstein will have control of the field. Naraki getting a little bit of an early launch there, and he actually just times it perfect. Hagenstein with Michael Frisch, Justin Malillo there on the top, and here comes Malillo, a huge run. Hagenstein's going to throw a big block there. Malillo gets the spot, 4 wide as they head into 1.
Was expecting the freight train, wasn't expecting like that. Is hard contact to the outside. No caution flag. It's at the back of the field. We stay green. There's the caution.
So the car flipping wasn't one, but it looked like that looked like payback right there. Cosman, Ionescu, and Jeremy Clapper. That was. I think that was a little bit of Cosman remembering and trying to get back at Jeremy. All it does is lose him 3 spots, but Brian Keto obviously flipped in turn 1. There was no caution for that. And then I think this is pretty self-explanatory right here. Cosman wasn't happy with the 94 that last time by, and he just goes and gets him into turn 1.
I don't necessarily think that's the full story, though, with what the cause was there, because of course, we see the car flipping up there after contact from Clapper. Cosman actually had a car dive underneath him in the 56 and basically tapped him in the left rear and slid him up the racetrack. There was also that massive aero wash we've seen a couple different times. So we're going to see right there that bit of contact just shoves up the hill while Clapper is already on top of things, trying to diamond it off the corner like we've seen a couple drivers try and do and work in bad fashion a couple times tonight.
I don't know. I guess we can agree to disagree on that. I know he had that challenge to the inside, but I think it's one of those cases where, you know that guy that wrecked you's on your high side. You could lift out of it when you get a little tight, or maybe you just kind of don't give the guy the same courtesy that you would to somebody else. So it wasn't on purpose, but maybe I just wasn't going to lift as much for that. But you could see already on this restart, as they headed into turn 1, Malillo was just insanely aggressive with that 4 wide move right there.
I wasn't expecting him to make it that much of a dive that time. I will say I was expecting to see it off into turn 2. We see drivers try and freight train Hagenstein with that bit of damage. But I wasn't expecting to go that low that quickly with that big of a launch off the start. But overall, strategy is going to get interesting here. Several drivers having to get repairs once again and or top off. Michael Frisch, Tristan Hagenstein having to come down.
And this is why I said you go ahead and get it out of the way early, and you don't have to worry about it. But they're going to go ahead and decide green-white checkered attempt number 3 is the right time to try and get it done, and they'll leave everybody else out to potentially not make it to the end. And it's going to ratchet it up more starting in the middle of the pack. Not going to be fun. Everybody's still going to try to be taking every run they can get. Still a lot left to go. And again, every green-white checkered attempt, we get that build-up, and then all of a sudden, here we are again. Same exact situation. The next 2 laps are all that matters.
By the way, this in from Cosman in the pit lane after he got the damage repairs done. Got out of it when I got hit. Still pushed up, so claims no intent in that situation. And that's what it looked like initially with the little tap from the 56, was that initial contact may have pushed him up that little bit, along with that diamond aspect that came in. But still, drivers are getting to the point where they have to take the access road to save the gas now, to make sure they take that shortcut to be able to save gas. I believe they can do this, they just can't do it under green. We just got the 1 to go signal here too, so this is going to be fun with how this fight could go down here at the front of the field, Blake.
I don't know exactly what to say about it. It's one of those things where we had alliances, we had guys hooked up. I thought Frisch and Hagenstein that last time they were going to be able to get it done. We saw how that worked out, and obviously they had to take the fuel, so now they're at the back. You see Naraki and Justin Malillo right now. They're teammates, but they're restarting in opposite lanes. So don't know if they can get hooked up there. And how much do you help them? When do you pull out a line? You got to watch the guys behind you because they continue to get runs, and still we have 16 cars. Despite all the accidents we've had, despite everything, we still have 16 cars, exactly what we've started this round and cycle of green, white checkers with, to be able to try and make it to the end and win this race. So, again, everybody has a shot at it.
I can't really give you a pick on who's going to win because of that unpredictability. It all comes down to how well the start goes, first of all, but as well, how you manage the runs if you're some of these drivers defending here. And I honestly think this could come down to a photo finish and something similar to what we've seen for the qualifying heat, where drivers are going to go near 2 to 3, 4 wide and try and find whatever hole they can dive into to carry the momentum. This is going to be a very tight finish if they can get to the checkered.
Going to be tight indeed. This pace car will pull off. We'll try it once again as we split the halfway mark of what may be our potential green-white checkered attempts. 3 of 5 coming to you, and it's going to be an early jump for Ryan Naraki. He jumps up to the high side. I know in some other FTF leagues you're not allowed to change lanes in the Grand National Series before you get to the start-finish line, so we'll see if that's a different rule right here, but Naraki jumps up and he has the lead, and Malillo and Connolly nearly make contact.
They have been working together, and now that's going to break up as one car flies up in the air. Caution flag, and wow.
And Luke Breitschoff just continues to go end over end out of turn 1. And we haven't even made it through turn 1. These couple of trips around, and we are already set to have green-white checkered attempt number 4 as Breitschoff was there. He restarted way back in the he started in 6, but he had such a run off of 2. He just didn't lift. Merzda was in front of him. He just ran into the back of Merzda. Really no other way to say it. Merzda watched us up the track a little bit. Breitschoff had plenty of opportunity, it looks like, to check up for him, but you know, it's the end of the race, and he wasn't going to lift and run to the back of him, and unfortunately it spins him around.
I don't really get this either way. Like, just drives right through him. But man, that car was significantly damaged in the first place, and well, now it's definitely turned into a barbecue.
Yeah, he was just spraying grass everywhere, and unfortunately for Breitschoff, fast repair or not, he had to bring it back to pit road through a tow, so he's going to go more than likely a couple laps down, regardless of if he could get it out there and get it fixed with that fast repair. But we take one more look at it. He runs into the back of him. There is kind of a weird twist a little bit right there with the contact, but nevertheless, he was going to hit him regardless. So it kind of put him in that position, and then obviously hits the oncoming traffic. And from here is just along for a crazy ride. I think so crazy it may have broken our camera there.
Yeah, that's where the music of where... I forget where I was going with that point. Either way, that car ended up going to Narnia, essentially, with how many flips it added on. But that flip counter for Splash and Go graphics definitely got added on by an extra 10 to 20 there as a result of the incident.
Oh, for sure. And this whole series has done a pretty good job of adding to that total throughout the year. But we still look up front. And now we run into the question of... everybody's running down here. I think everybody on the access road, they're just trying to save fuel. Some of the drivers that stayed out, they're trying to do everything they can to just go down to the access road, take the shorter trip around. You see a couple more cars making their way on the pit road. Some perhaps they're anticipating already a 5th green-white checkered that they may use for this race. That's the one thing with this. I definitely believe that we're slated to potentially use all 5, and with that winding down, we get to the possibility that a yellow flag could end this race.
And it's not, I think, how we expected this race to initially go with how things played out with drivers in practice, how they've looked in early on stages. But now it's all changed upside down because the intensity knob went from 9 to 11 to 111. So it's been entertaining, to say the very least, though. And keep in mind, we went from basically our fewest totals caution so far this season to, well, this.
Yeah, it has definitely gone up. You look at that caution count. We've had 8 and what was a pretty clean race up to this point. You think about pretty much half the yellows in this race have come out here these last couple of go-rounds that we've tried to get a green-white checker complete. Again, our originally scheduled distance for this race was 50 laps. We're already on lap 61, and of course we won't finish this thing when we get the green flag. And assuming that this is the final green-white checkered attempt, we won't even finish here before lap 64. I think will be the scheduled distance here. So, yeah, we're just going a little bit further past, and it's making it interesting for these drivers. We see, again, Naraki there on the access road trying to clutch, save all the fuel he can.
It's going to be tight on that gas if we get that one more attempt. So we'll have to see how things play out here. And here we go. Want to go signal once again. And once again, all the dancing partners are broken up as a result of that trouble, especially with Justin Malillo smacking that wall in part where he had to go towards the back of that line.
Put at the back, but still see Naraki up front. Malillo not there. Connolly has just been hanging around looking for an opportunity to try to bring it home to victory lane. Adam Martin done a nice job. And how about Brennan Mersta? Early on in the race, he was somebody who was really just running in the back the entire time, minding his time, trying to take care of his race car. And it seems like that strategy has worked out to a T. He puts himself in 5th position for a potential run here to the checkers, which, of course, a reminder, if we can get to the white flag, we'll see this thing through to the end, regardless of what happens. We just have to get one complete lap around, and up to this point, we haven't even been able to make it to turn 2 yet. So we'll see if they're capable of doing that this time around, or if there's more of the same slated for this 4th green-white checker that could send us to a 5th and final attempt.
Aaron, by the way, Naraki, 1.4 gallons is in the take. 1.4 gallons for the drivers who haven't ducked into the pit lane in more than 20 laps. Blake, if they take the white flag, they might not even be able to make it to the checker flag here, possibly. And this could end up being similar to the IMSA iRacing Pro Invitational race that took place on Thursday, where the leader ran out of fuel in the last lap.
It could happen. That's one thing. I wouldn't put it past it for this race. And Naraki kind of used that access road to get his restart. So that's kind of interesting there. We'll have to see. Again, he kind of changed lanes early, and that time he restarted practically on the access road. So, again, we'll have to see how that's ruled. But Adam Martin right now, he has that push. He restarted 5th. He's up into the lead, and see if we can make it out of turn 1 this time.
Looks like we can here. Now it's the question, can we make it through turn 2? And can these drivers in turn then make it on gas? Here comes Hagenstein from the back.
Hagenstein making the move on the inside, trying to get past Naraki, who's got a good amount of help right there. Dylan Connolly right there with them. But here comes Michael Frisch with Adam Martin giving a huge push to that inside line. We're going to get to turn 3. If we can make it a little bit further, we might see it. And Mersta going to get turned, and that is going to cause green-white checkered attempt number 5.
Wow. Thought we were going to make it, and it was going to be a crazy, crazy finish. And now, as a result here, we may see drivers duck down and have to come down on the gas with how things have played out here. Have to see what happened here, but man, what an intense moment there. I think it was 4 wide into the corner that may have caused this, Blake.
We'll take a look at it here, and you can definitely see 4 wide didn't work out. Mersta ends up getting tagged. He saved it. So he was scurrying around, and then you see, I think that was Clapper right there, or perhaps Jake Poulin. I think the 717 right there checked up a little bit for what he thought was Mertz kind of drifting there. He gets tagged, and obviously that's what brings out the caution. He ends up getting spun, but...
Yeah, we'll see right there that little bit of a weave and just try to get a little bit more tighter in on the rest of the pack. Kid is the intern, the one who goes around the most, who ends up getting a hard hit in the checkup aftermath. And now it becomes the fuel mileage game just about here. Keep in mind, Jack Painter got shuffled to 9th. Martin, Rocky, and Connolly all are in that grouping who may have to come down possibly.
They might be, but also you have to think about the fact that the next flag will end this race. If we get an immediate yellow, that's going to be the end of it, and instead they're not going to risk it. They're going to come down pit road. I was thinking maybe you potentially risk a very early caution and you're able to coast it to the end, but Naraki wasn't going to take that chance. He is about to run out of fuel. You could see several drivers following him down. So they have to throw in the towel, take the fuel. Everybody that pit late, kind of around the time that on the broadcast that I would have pit, they're all cycled to the race lead now, and now we're in that position, 5th green, white, checkered, and this is going to be it. If we get a yellow, even if it's 3 seconds after we throw the green, that's going to be the race. So they're in a great position right now because we don't have to make it 2 laps for anything to happen. We can get something immediately in turn 1, and it'll be a fight to the end. But because of that, everybody knows that. So Michael Frisch, Connolly, Mike McConville, I feel like they're much less likely to go up and push anybody in front of them because they know at any moment the race could be over.
Yeah, this is going to be a crazy finish, I think, overall. As a result here, it's the matter of where does the move end up coming to play? We'll have to see.
I have to see where it comes from, who it goes to, and you know, like we've said several times, we keep saying that this is the time to really show it. Well, this is it. You know, we've had 4 green, white checkers that all pretty much don't mean anything at this point. It's all about what's in front of these drivers right now. We started this cycle of green, white checkers with 16 drivers that pretty much had the cars that were capable of winning this race. That has since dwindled down. Despite all the attrition that we've seen these last couple of attempts, 15 drivers still have their opportunity to try and win this race. So the numbers have not dwindled, to say the least, here at the end of this race to have a chance for it. It's just a lot of these drivers in the back, they're obviously rooting for that white flag. They want it to play out. They want the chaos to happen. They want the time to be able to build up that run, to be able to make those moves and fight for an opportunity to get the checkered flag here tonight. And if you're up front, or especially if you're the leader, you're obviously hoping that yellow comes out immediately. You don't want anything to happen. You want exactly what we've gotten these last 4 restarts, an immediate yellow flag that will end the race and determine a winner. So conflicting strategies, conflicting desires here, and we'll see which one plays out.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how this is going to play out overall. If we take the white flag, it's anyone's race. If we have an incident, especially in the heart of the pack or the back of the pack, then it's likely towards Hagenstein or Frisch's situation to be able to take the checker flag, because they're both drivers play this very well. So we'll have to see who plays this the best overall to be able to stay out of trouble.
That'll be the call here, as we'll see what works out coming into turn 3 for what will be our final attempt at a green, white, checkered. We gave them 5, and these drivers, they've used all of them up. So we're handicapping them at this point that we will try to get this one in. Ryan Naraki pleading over the driver's chat to please don't be, quote, dumb until the white. Let us see this through. Is Hagenstein going to have control of the field? Pace car is off, and we won't see him again. Green flag is out, and next flag will end the race unless we get back to the white, and then we'll see it through to the end. But Hagenstein trying to do everything he can to block. Again, he knows at any moment it could end. Hagenstein throwing the block on Michael Frisch as they head into one. They're 2 and 3 wide behind him.
Oh, this is looking very sketchy already. How about 3 wide off the corner, off the bump?
And Frisch not going to have a whole lot of help, and now he gets it in the form of Jake Poulin. Frisch on the top. Hagenstein in the middle with Mike McConville and Justin Malillo. Connolly left all by himself there on the bottom. He's going to hit the rumble strips, moves up the racetrack. Hagenstein goes to block him, and now here comes Justin Malillo trying to push McConville to the lead.
And Malillo all the way from the back. He got tagged though. What a save by Malillo as he pushes up the track.
And Malillo somehow saved it as they're beating each other. Oh, are we going to have the caution before they get to the white? And the caution is out. Who had it? It looked like by the naked eye that it was Mike McConville, and McConville was just out in front. What had to have been a couple hundred feet before we got to the white flag, and that is going to be it. That contact between Connolly and Justin Malillo ended this, and of course we will go back, and even the results that you see right now will be unofficial. We'll go back and review it, but at the moment of caution, at least I can determine by my replay, it was pretty clear that I believe McConville was ahead and won this race. And let me just confirm that. I mean, they basically had crossed the start-finish line. The caution still came out, but McConville, from what I could see, definitely had a nose ahead.
And it was a tight nose ahead, keep in mind, if that is indeed the case. And we'll have to see what happened to cause this incident, because, man, one driver got pushed up in the wall, Michael Frisch, and just calamity ensued. I believe Justin Malillo went crashing hard into the pit lane as they all looped to the back end of the field.
So at the moment of caution, the leaders were just past the start-finish line, and I mean, I'm looking at it on my replay frame by frame on when the lights come on the pace car. Mike McConville couldn't have been more than just a couple inches in front. You see the caution pretty much right there. Right before they're just through the other half of that start-finish line. The leaders were just ahead of it when the yellow light exactly came on, and McConville was just a couple inches in front of him. Now, again, they'll go back and video review all of this. So these results, some of them may be unofficial further on in the pack, but we can rest assured that it was Mike McConville that wins this race.
And to emphasize how close it was, looking at things as Malillo went flying over the pit wall on the inside of the pit lane to all the way into the trees, and one of the hardest flying hits I've seen here at Pocono. It was within about a foot of the start and finish line from taking the white flag. It was that close after the calamity.
That is tough. Tough, but yet thrilling for Mike McConville, who ends up winning this race, bringing it home to victory lane. And again, we'll list these results that are unofficial. Everything will be decided by video replay a little bit later. But for the moment, Mike McConville is scored as your race winner. Tristan Hagenstein second. Ryan Naraki holds on to third. Dylan Connolly there wrapped up late in that contact. He finishes fourth. Fifth goes to Adam Martin. Jake Poulin was in sixth. Jeremy Clapper seventh. Jake Painter eighth. Clint Roberts ninth. Brendan Merz 10th. Dylan Nedwani in 11th. 12th to Brian Keita. 13th Cosman Ionescu. 14th Michael Frisch. 15th after flipping there was Justin Malillo. 16th Luke Breitschoff, and 17th Andrew Hardcastle. But again, these results as we listed them to you, this is iRacing's results. We will go back and do some video review to to confirm that, but we can confirm that we're getting word that unofficially Mike McConville and all sources indicate, and everything that I can see from the replay would indicate that McConville will be scored your race winner tonight. We'll continue to keep you updated on official word, but from everything I could see, it looks like McConville wins this race.
And a lot of tempers going to be flaring out to say with how tight things got there with the 5 green-white checkered attempts. But man, what a race overall, you have to say. Before the closing stages, it was the race of the season so far. Have to say, with the back and forth, with the intrigue, with the 4 wide, with the respect drivers had been showing before the closing stages. It just ended up getting to where the pressure ended up building up. And up and up and up, and we've seen that come into play in these final laps.
Well, we'll see, and we'll go ahead and talk to, I'm sure, a very excited Mike McConville, who ends up winning. And I mean, that was the thinnest of margins. Not only your race victory, but whether we were going to get to race out that white flag or whether the yellow was out. Just talk about what you saw from the seat of your car there.
I saw cars in front of me, man, and I was not going to be denied today.
Well, that's awesome, dude. I know you definitely had your runs through the field. Just talk about how difficult it was, because it just looked like you never really knew when you wanted to make a move. You could get such huge runs, and you'd stall out when you get to the front. Just talk about this kind of insane package that y'all had to deal with tonight.
This was a very insane package, because from the outside, it looks like these cars are very easy to drive and very planted to the ground. And down the straightaways, yeah, but tucked up someone shoving them into the corners, they lost all front grip and just wanted to shove into the fence. And managing that, and it was crazy.
Was this the most fun you've had this season? Because I know it seemed like this was about as balanced as you could get with, you know, being able to be at a racetrack that's not high banked, but you still get those huge runs. What was it up there on the list this race?
Well, for me, it's a little bit of bias. I'm still waiting for the official word to come down to say that I got to win. But I would say out of everything so far, this has been the most fun. Just with how strategically it was, you had to pass, and just the big pack racing at almost the entire field, finishing at the end. I mean, can we run this every week?
We'll see if maybe we can't get this to be the official Daytona or the Riley DP Pocono series eventually at some point in the future. But Mike, we'll toss the mic to you one more time. Anybody want to give a shout out to?
First off, I want to give a big shout out to a close friend of mine, Corey Butler, who passed away this week. And I want to dedicate this win to him. He was a very close family friend. I'm 32 years old, and I've known him since I was in diapers. And I want to dedicate this to him. I want to give a big shout out to my best friend, Ken Bryson, who's supported me in sim racing for years. And I know he's watching right now. So big shout out to you, homie. We'll be celebrating tomorrow, brother. Shout out to you guys for doing an immensely amazing job in the broadcast booth every week. It's just my first FTF win. I'm speechless.
Doesn't get any better than that. Well, Mike, of course, our thoughts and prayers are with you on the loss of your friend. But again, I hope this can make it a little sweeter. Congratulations. And I believe it's official now. You are the winner tonight.
Woo! I'm going to go burn it down. Thank you, guys.
All right, well, we'll let Mike burn it down, and you can see the exact frame that we had on your screen there for a couple of moments, that was the frame, that it was frozen. That was the official margin of victory on screen, and Mike McConville is your winner tonight. You see him doing the live burnouts, but of course, coming up just short, as happy as he is Tristan Hagenstein. He's caught up with Justin Prince.
Tristan, you went up and down the field all night, was a lap down at one point, unlapped yourself before a caution flag, worked your way back up to the front, had to work your way back to the pack after fuel strategy, you were all over the field throughout the night. Talk us through, first of all, what was a wild evening it seemed from you, from at least from our perspective.
Wild's an understatement. Oh my goodness, that was a roller coaster if I've ever seen one in my life. But it just trying to do what I can. I mean, we got caught up in that accident. That was pretty unfortunate itself how it played out. But and then the fact that I drove through the pack to get the lap back, that helped me and Mertz out. I was kind of thinking about that. I was like, you know what, might as well try to go for it. That way we can both get back on the lead lap. And then fuel strategy, I actually was probably going to run out of fuel there on the final lap. So it kind of was a blessing in disguise that the caution came out there. But hats off to Mike for putting on a very solid race. It seemed like he was in the mix pretty much all night. He's a really good guy. I'm glad he got this one. And wild night indeed.
Was going to ask, what was kind of your thought process on the final green-white checkered, with, especially now knowing the fuel context, how tight it was, especially what came down to video review, essentially, for how tight it was at the stripe?
There's so much going through my head right now still about that. I mean, like, I'm don't get me wrong, I'm very, very, very happy for a second place finish. And, like I said, I'm glad Mike got it. But I didn't realize it was going to come down literally to that yellow, literally at the stripe. Crazy that it came out right there. But, oh, man, I'm just glad. Like I said, it stinks that it had to end that way, but it's kind of a blessing in disguise that it came out when it did, so I could still maintain a top two position.
Daytona with the Xfinity cars is up next, and that's going to be an important race, with it being the 7th race of the season. What's your approach now going to be for that one as you enter tonight as the points leader and in a strong position to try and lock yourself in for the championship race?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a really, really, really good season so far, and I love the Xfinity cars. And I'm going to race just as hard as I always do. Might be a little more relaxed knowing the position I'm in, but I like coming out here and racing. So I'm going to be just as aggressive as always and do the best I can to win that one too.
Anyone you want to thank for the run?
Yeah, first of all, you guys do a great job every week, whether it be FGNS, SNSL. You guys do a phenomenal job putting this show on, so thank you to you guys. I got to thank Cloud Empire Discord for always having my back. Michael P. Frisch, he was a key component to my success tonight. He was kind of coaching me through that. He had my back there. We were trying to work together there. And, just everyone else for coming out. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Congratulations on the run, Tristan.
Thank you, Jason.
Tristan Hagenstein coming home in second tonight.
And that'll wrap things up with us for post-race coverage, with all the rest of the results yet to be determined. But we can confirm it is Mike McConville, your winner, Tristan Hagenstein, who finishes up in second tonight. And just what another fantastic race we were treated to here in the Saturday Night Super Speedway League, presented by STN. And we will, of course, be back with a couple of upcoming events throughout the next couple of weeks here on STN that I'm sure you won't want to miss, and there will definitely be something you will want to tune into. A lot of Four Corners Racing League, FTF, Road to Pro, Second Split, a lot upcoming, and be sure to stay tuned to our socials. You can find out when those are, and those will be live here on STN. But the biggest one this Sunday, the I've Got Balls 400. STN will be covering the Alabama 500. That'll be Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern right here on STN, so make sure you don't want to miss that. So from our broadcast partner Justin Prince and Zach Johnson down to the virtual production trailer, I'm Blake McCandless saying so long from the Pocono Raceway, where it was a crazy one, but we bid you farewell and congratulations to Mike McConville, your winner at Pocono tonight.